With that being said, I'm going to turn over to Tom to talk through some different philosophy, talk through a little bit of his program, kind of where we fit into the overall plan for Bloomington soccer, and then give us lots of great drills to be able to use as coaches. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me? All right. My name is Tom Suzik. I am the varsity head coach for the boys at Jefferson High School, replacing Danny Storling after 25 years that he was there. This is my first season where I'm going to be in that role. I apologize that I'm not wearing Jefferson stuff. I haven't gotten it in yet. So I sent Will a presentation that had like basically everything I'm going to talk about, plus practice plans that talks about this, but also how this expands into future ideas. Little note about the practice plans. What you see us doing tonight, these guys have all done it before. These are some of my players that I've had. They've all done it before, so they're going to be very familiar with it, and they'll be able to go through the practices pretty quick. When I've introduced it to them when they were like 8 and 9 years old, sometimes we got through like 3 parts out of 8 in an hour and a half, because that's just what it took. Know the players and know how you like balance things out. A little bit about myself. I was previously a head coach at Brooklyn Center High School for a couple years, and was the head coach at Chanhassen High School, both the boys. I've been coaching sports for over 20 years. I started coaching high school sports right after I graduated from high school in Connecticut. Moved here in 2009. I've been coaching with Bloomington United since 2016. And yeah, I'm real excited to be here. I'm excited to be coaching now in the town that I live in. So it's fun. Some things about philosophy that I want to touch on. First thing was playing time. Just to piggyback on what was said earlier, playing time is super important for kids at all levels. So even from like up to JV in high school, my expectation is the kids are playing half the game every time. So I keep my rosters, when I'm doing high school stuff, I keep the rosters at about 16 to 18 max. So it's easier for the coach to rotate players in and out. At U10 and younger, who coaches like younger than U10? Under 10, so that'd be like 4th grade and lower. Okay, is everybody else higher? Yeah, okay. So for U10 and under, the league that we're in for Bloomington United, they don't even keep scores and they don't have standings. It's much more about developmental, and I would really emphasize that at this age, that emphasize developmental pieces with the players and not a final score. Kids will keep track of the score because they always do. But then what I would do when I was coaching at that age, I would tell the kids, well, but this goal might not have counted because there's only one ref on the field, and the ref missed this call earlier, or this player was offsides, and so they might have missed that. It counts more when you have multiple refs on the field. And so that kind of sets them up for that future playing experience. Also, by emphasizing just the process, what I would do with that is I would set a goal before every game, where for a long time with Finley's team, Finley's my son over there, the tallest one, when they were at U9, they had this habit of kicking the ball to the middle every time on defense. So for a little while, our goal was don't kick the ball to the middle. And that's all we talked about during the game. That's all we talked about at halftime. That's all we talked about at the end of the game. And it's really hard, especially when you know soccer, to not talk about anything else. But if you limit your feedback to that specific goal, it's easy for the kids to focus on it. But then what that built into with his team was, all right, our goal today is when we have possession, the outside midfielders are going to go wide. And you're going to go to the sidelines and create space. So we would practice creating space, and then in the games they would work on that. And so now suddenly the kid who's not kicking it to the middle anymore, when they're kicking it out to the outside, now they've got a player on the outside to receive that pass. And suddenly we have a counterattack going down the other field at U9. So if you take your overall strategy and thoughts and ideas and break down what's the simplest and first thing that has to be done and focus on that, and then use building blocks, that's how you can have a successful season with the kids. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. The other thing is at U9 and U10 and U11 and 12, you do a lot of rotations and positions. So U9 and U10, the kids are just learning soccer. U11 and U12, they're just learning competitive soccer. So you're going to rotate kids around into lots of different positions because they might be decent at defense, but man, like they've got that desire to get the ball on offense and can put it into the net. So you want to try them in different spots. And the flip side could happen where you could have a kid who's like pretty solid at offense, but then for like future development, playing them at defense, that might be a position that they end up in as they get older, depending on what level that they're playing at. I've turned a lot of forwards that were like my second and third forwards on teams into like absolutely dominant outside defenders because they had all the moves, so they could control the ball when they won it, but they also had the speed that they had as being a forward to take out attackers on the other team. So it's usually about U13 that you start getting much more tactical with the kids. Prior to that, it's going to be a lot more technical. With the U11s here that I was coaching, that's Felix and Ben, we did talk tactics, but we had a lot of newer kids on the team, so we'd have sessions where we did a lot of technical skills still. Once they start getting older, though, they should have a decent grasp of what they're doing in terms of technique, and so you're going to give more tactical instruction. When I'm setting up my approach with the kids, I think, what do I want to see them do at the 11v11 stage? When there's 11 players on the field, what's the ideal setup? And I take that and back down all the way to 7v7 when I'm coaching the young kids and say, these are the important things that they need to know at this age so that it carries over to the next age. I just wanted to talk about something over here real quick. So I brought this just to write down some ideas. When I'm coaching 7v7, actually, when I coach any kid, I teach them position numbers and not the name of the position. Because if I coach them and tell them, hey, I'm going to have you play left back, are they going to go up and attack? Probably not too much, right? They're going to think, oh, I play defense, I'm not attacking, so I don't do anything there. I'm going to let the forwards go. But if I teach them, you're going to be a 2, and they're like, what's a 2? And so I explain the role, like on defense, you're going to be doing this, but when we have the ball, I actually want you to push up and try to cross the ball into the middle and support the attack. That's going to translate to what they're going to do here on the 11v11. Make sense? So by teaching them those numbers, it takes away any preconceived ideas that they have about that position name. And so I can teach them anything that I want related to that position that will carry over from year to year. So Finley's team and Felix's teams, I've coached them from 7v7, 9v9, Finley's now at the 11v11. So I have a lot of carryover in the formations that I use with the kids. So if you coach a 7v7, two things that I love to use would be a 2-3-1, so 2 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 1 forward, or a 3-2-1, 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, and 1 forward. It really depends on the makeup of your team on which one you would use and why. In this setup, this is a 2-3-1. I would set it up with my strongest players in the central because that's where they're going to have the most touches. The players that are like a little shy about contact, a little nervous about playing, maybe not too confident, I'm going to put them more on the outside because then I can give them very specific rules and expectations. It's also a lot easier to see the field from the outside than it is to see it in the middle. In the middle, you constantly have to be looking around in order to play the game effectively. On the outside, you can just kind of stare and watch, and you can see the whole field. As long as you put your back to the sideline, you can see everything. When we moved to 9v9, we played this year Felix and Ben's team. They started with a different formation. We ended up with a 4-3-1. So 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 1 striker. And once they made that switch and we talked about their expectations, the team was much more spread out and much more dominant in games. Initially, they were all packed in the middle. And honestly, it sometimes reminded me of like U6 or U5 soccer where they just kind of swarmed. I was like, oh, we can't do that. So once we changed things and really defined what's going on, then they started understanding their spacing a little bit more. Once you hit 11v11, the sky's the limit on what you can do with formations. My biggest thing would be to make what you're doing fit the kids. Don't make the kids fit what you're trying to do. You don't have the luxury of signing free agents and contacting another team and offering them like a couple $1 million for a player. Therefore, identify what the kids do well and really highlight that and emphasize that with what you're doing. If you ever have any questions, I included my contact information in the handouts, the digital form. So just reach out and I can help you with like ideas and stuff. If you want to bounce things off, I can help with that. There's lots of different formations, and another thing that can happen when you get to like Finley's age with the 11v11 is you can actually start telling them on offense, you're going to look like this, on defense, you look like that. And you actually have movement around the field, and now it really looks like soccer. So it's a process, but be patient, and it gets there. Next, I want to talk about drills and training. I would say drills, if you're having kids line up and like 1 or 2 kids are going at a time, is probably the worst thing to do for kids. Think about kids today. Who goes on YouTube? Raise your hand. Who watches 4-hour videos on YouTube? Raise your hand. Who watches 20-second clips on YouTube? So our attention span is getting smaller and smaller. So the more standing around they're going to do, the more problems you're going to have with behavior. So try to keep the kids engaged in the activity as much as possible. When we talk about our defensive activity, what I'm going to tell you is I will have lines with this, but I'll have multiple fields going on at once. So the lines are small so the kids can have a rest in between each rep. And I'll have a maximum of 3 kids in a line for a one-on-one activity. So then a kid gets a rest, they come back to their line, the next player goes, and then that kid can go again. That's the only time that I really do lines, because it's a continuous activity. Otherwise, if it's the sort of thing where we have a line of like 6, 7, 8 kids and we're dribbling across the field one at a time, or dribbling up and taking a shot one at a time, you're going to lose kids real quick. Another thing I don't do a lot is scrimmaging, especially for young kids. They want to do it. They want to score goals. They'll ask to play full field. They'll do all these things. But if you do that regularly, they're not really going to learn much, because kids at that age need to get a lot of touches on the ball. And that's another reason why you don't do lines, because kids need touches. They need to kick the ball as much as possible, see what works and what doesn't work. The big thing that I do is something from my physical education background. It's tactical games. Have you ever heard of that? So it's putting the kids in a game situation, and what you're teaching them is focused on like the rules and limitations and expectations within the game. So if I'm playing like a 4v4 game and we're having a lot of trouble with passing, I'll set up some expectations, like you got to connect 3 passes before you can score. So one kid doesn't dribble through everybody and try to score. Then as the teams are struggling, I'll pull them together and be like, hey, what have we talked about with passing? What do you have to do? How should you hit the ball? And then you can talk in small groups about the actual expectations. When they go back out though, it's much more I'm playing and I'm experiencing what it's like to play a small game and using these skills and tactics within a small situation. A couple things to keep in mind as well. Give a numerical advantage to the team that or to the skill that you're really emphasizing. So if you're emphasizing offense, originally we were going to have 9 kids, and I was going to demonstrate that. If you are emphasizing offense, give the offensive team 6 players versus 3 defenders. You want them to be successful. If you're emphasizing defense, make it really close in numbers, or give the defense a little bit more. If you are working on offense, give them a big space so that they can learn to use lots of space, because the main tactic in soccer on offense is to create space. If you're working on defense, give them a small space to work in, because the main tactic in soccer for defense is take away space. That way they'll be successful within your drills, or more likely to be successful. A few other things. Start any activity with very limited limitations. So a limitation could be something like you can take a maximum of 2 touches each time you get the ball. So a touch is any time it touches a part of your body. So the first touch would be to control the ball to space, second touch would be to pass. So if I'm telling the kids you have a maximum of 2 touches, then it really changes what they're going to be able to do with the ball, and they have to move a lot quicker. Another idea could be if a group is dominating in a small game, I might say, you now need to score 1-touch goals only. So now as their teammates pass them the ball, they have to score on the 1 touch. They can't be dribbling and trying to dribble past everybody before they score. Because as you play soccer higher and higher, the speed of your decisions is going to be more important than taking on 30 kids to score a goal. Some other things that I've done in the past, change the field shape, use a triangle, make it a hexagon. It really throws the kids off. Use a triangle goal, so you can just set up 3 cones and say you can score a goal through this by passing it to a teammate on the other side from any direction. And if defenders start getting really smart and they start doing things like laying in front of goals, give the offense other ways to get points, where you can do things like, if you connect 5 passes in a row, you'll get a point. And so that's going to force the defense to come out and actually play defense on those offensive players. Last thing before we get into this is feedback. So this goes for 2 things, first in practice, but also in games. When you're giving feedback to people, make sure that for the young kids, especially new players, you're giving lots and lots of specific feedback. What's working well, what do they need to work on, but lots of feedback so they know what to be doing and what's going well and what's not. As they get older and more experienced, you back off on the feedback and you give it maybe after every 5 or 6 opportunities. Every few minutes you give them a little feedback. When we get to games, with Finley's team, I give very little feedback, and it's usually more commands during a game. I'm never going to say, pass to this kid here, pass to them over there, send the ball here, because then that stops them from thinking. Instead, I might say, check your shoulders. What are your options? So now I'm giving a command, some specific feedback, but I'm telling them like, hey, you got to look around, right? And then they can decide what they're going to do with the ball. I might say to his team, switch, up, pull back, recover, things like that, where it's more just general, hey, this is what we need to do as a team. Up, like we need to get the ball out of our defense and we all need to get up. Switch the field, like just send the ball to the other side. We've got players open over there. Look for a switch, see if you can make it to the other side. So those are the types of feedback I'll give. With the younger kids, it's shifting away from that direct instruction, like, hey, this kid's open all the time, send them the ball, right? It'll be, look to see if you can be a second option. Look to see if you can move to a different space to create an option for you and your teammates. You should have 2 people that you can pass to when you have the ball, so make sure you're moving around. The reason I'm bringing that up is because even in high school and traveling competitions, you have coaches that tell the kid, pass the ball to Finley, just get the ball to him. And that really takes away any of the problem solving that kids need to do in order to actually learn how to play the game. So really back off on giving those direct instructions, especially to little kids. Ask them questions and make them try to come up with the answers. Questions on anything I covered? All right, it was a lot. It's all also written out. So if you haven't got the email yet, you will. And so then you can review, and if you have questions after reviewing, feel free to ask. I brought these guys here because what I saw from the video last year at this session last year is that some of the coaches were out doing stuff. If you want to, I can have you participate, but if you want to just watch and listen, I'm going to coach them differently depending on the activity that we're doing. So you can see different ways that I'll interact with them. Does that make sense? All right, so first we're going to go down to the big square over there. And this is an activity that I've done with all these guys when they were real little, like 8, 9 years old. So I'll see if they remember it. I prefaced it with them earlier, so we'll see if they remember. So typically when I would do this activity, I'd have groups of 3 or 4 to start. Because of numbers, we'll go with 5. The goal for this activity is to teach them about space on offense. When you're playing soccer, who's played soccer before? Who's played a game where you score a goal on a net? The concepts are all the same. How you get to those results is different because you're going to have different skills, but all the tactics are all the same. For hockey, for soccer, it's all the same. So right now we're going to teach them how to create space, because when you have control of the ball in soccer, when you have control of the puck in hockey, anything where you're trying to score a goal, the object is to create space as much as you can for your team and spread out the defense. So what I want you to do when I say go, I want everybody here in the middle. When I say go, I want to see you make a shape in this space, okay, as a team. So think about what kind of shapes you want to make, but I want to see you make a shape in this space. Ooh, what was that one?
Pentagon.
Ooh, a pentagon, yeah. Let's see you make a pentagon. Ready? When I say go, make a pentagon. Everybody knows what a pentagon is, right?
Yeah.
How many sides on a pentagon?
5.
How many corners?
4 or 5.
5, yes. So that's perfect, so we can do a pentagon. Ready? Set, go! Okay. Good, so you've got a pentagon, right? I see Kai, you're over here. Good, I can see the line there. I see a line here, and a line here. Great, come back to the middle. That pentagon that you made was about a quarter of our space. Can you make a bigger pentagon?
Yeah.
All right, ready? When I say go, make a pentagon. Ready? Go! Make the biggest pentagon that you can make. Ooh. All right, so Ben, I see a line here. To Kai, you've got a line here. Felix is balanced over there. Finley, it looks like you guys have a little bit of a line there, right? A little curve. Yeah? So you've got a little bit of an angle. Good. Do you guys know what this kind of curve is, right? This angle is here. I've got Kai here and Luca over here from Ben. How many degrees is that? Say it. Almost 180, half of 180. From where I was standing, it was half of 180. Yeah, it was about a 90-degree angle, right? From right here, sorry, where I'm standing right here, that's like a 90-degree angle. From where Ben is, maybe about 110, 120. In soccer, you want to try to get 90-degree angles as often as possible. What other shapes can give you a 90-degree angle? Yes, a square. Let's make a square. Ready? Come in here. Ooh, good question. How are you going to do it with 5?
Just have 2 people on my mind.
Oh, okay. Ready, set, go. Oh, I like what Kai said. Make it big.
Felix, go over there. Wait, is this just a square?
It is a square. It's 15 yards by 15 yards. Oh, yeah, good. Another activity. Let's try to make triangles. Come back here. I want to see if as a group you can make 2 triangles. 2 triangles. Ready? 2 triangles. Set, go. So you're back in a pentagon again. I see some triangles within the pentagon, right? Can you make a different shape without having a pentagon? Ooh, I see what you're doing, Kai. Yeah, so if Finley comes here, let's have Felix move over there. Luca, come over here. Let's make it a big space. Kai, go over there. Ben, go over there. If Finley's here in the middle, now do you see the triangles? When you have enough players, you want to have somebody in the middle too taking up this space. You can't have everybody wide, right? You got to have players in the middle too taking up that space, because now you have a presence in the middle. The middle is the most dangerous part in soccer. When we have the ball, we want to try to get the ball to the middle as we're moving the ball down the field. Make sense? All right. Anybody have questions with that? Depending on the kid's age, I might say make a triangle, make a square, make a diamond, make a kite. I might feed them the exact shapes I want them to make, and then slowly add more and more kids to the group. So now they have to communicate a little bit more. And they'll direct each other like what you saw them doing about spreading out, right? All right, now we're gonna shift over to this grid over here. So for this activity, this is a passing activity. This is teaching the kids how to spread out, because that's really hard for kids. When I was coaching at Brooklyn Center, a lot of the kids had never played club soccer. So what we constantly ran into is the first 12 games of the season, I was trying to teach them how to play 11v11. And then they would peak at the end of the year and they'd be like, hey, let's play some soccer in the off season. Let's do this. And let's play over the summer when I can coach you. And they wouldn't always come. And so then we would start again fresh. All right, first 8 games, we're gonna learn how to play as a team. So I have done this activity with as old as high school and as young as 7 and 8 years old. Depending on the ages and the size of the kids, I might change the grid a little bit. Again, this was originally set up for 9 kids. It's gonna be way too much space for 5. So I'll make some adjustments as they're going. The way that this activity is gonna work is they're all gonna have letters, get together and figure out who's gonna be A, B, C, D, and E. They're all gonna have letters, and the expectation is that they pass in order, A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, E back to A. They're all going to take up a spot in the grid. It's stationary at first. It's 3 touches at first if they need it. I'm not putting restrictions on it. The things I'm going to emphasize are have your body open towards where the ball is coming from and where it's going. Then as they get comfortable with that, we'll start adding some more restrictions, like, all right, now you're going to do 2 touches. You can take 1 touch to settle, 1 touch to pass. As they're doing this, this is giving me an opportunity as a coach to say, hey, I see you're hitting it with your toe. That's really hard to control in soccer. Let's talk about what it looks like to pass. Toe up, ankle locked, follow through at the target, hips facing where you want it to go. I see that you're having trouble settling the ball and controlling it on that first touch. It's going like 4 or 5 yards away from you. When you go to receive it, have your toe up, ankle locked, cushion the ball into your foot. Have it try to stop like a couple feet away from you. So then you can keep it close and then make your pass to where you need to go. So this gives me that opportunity to talk to the kids individually. Then I may do it with them, I may not. It would build up to, now they're gonna move around this area, and that's the key to this part. When I've coached the kids, I've talked to them about how you win or lose games based on what you're doing off the ball. In a 90-minute game, a player might touch the ball for 2 or 3 minutes. That's 88 minutes that you're not touching the ball. It's really important that you're constantly moving and being engaged and doing other stuff throughout the game. And so that's what this activity is going to teach them. They're going to be able, as they make a pass, they have to move to a new box. And after when they're in that new box, they can't be in the box with another teammate. And they constantly have to keep looking to see where the ball is coming from now and where the ball is going to be going to. So it starts to get really complex. And the kids can get really frustrated, but it's a good frustration because the difficulty is getting higher, and that's where you want to challenge them. All right, so who's A?
Me.
All right, Ben, pick a square in here. B, pick a square. C, pick a square. D, pick a square. E, pick a square. Oh, you made that so easy for yourselves by just spreading it to a big circle. Wow. All right, ready? Let's go. A to B. B to C. All right, and then back. Good. So one thing I'm noticing, how is everybody facing as you're receiving the ball? Are we open to the field where you can see everybody? No. What are we doing, Kai?
We're looking straight at the person.
We're looking straight at the person who's passing it to us. So can I see Luca? That's who you have to pass it to, right? How can we change that so that you can see both? Yeah, you can back up a little too if you want, if it's getting too hard. Now you can see both, right? Where should Ben pass you the ball? So this is going to start getting a little more advanced with that piece, right? Yeah, if he puts it right in front of you, then you can just step up and pass it. Should Ben be trying to stop the ball at your foot?
No.
No. How come?
Because you're going to go somewhere after it.
Yeah, if he puts the ball slow to your foot, you might be moving somewhere else. And if you put this ball slow to his foot, you've all worked with me in the past. What kind of pass is that in a game? That's a hospital ball. The ball is passed so slowly, it's like it's sick and it has to go to the hospital. Or when you get to Finley's age, the hospital ball means what, Finley? Somebody from the other team is going to drill you when that ball comes in and you're going to have to go to the hospital. So let's not do that, right? So give a good firm pass, slightly past Kai's foot. Kai, you're going to be open to receive it from Luca. Ready? Play. Better. Good, good. Oh, Felix, I like how you turned your hips a little bit so that you could see Finley too. All right, freeze. So now I'm going to change it to the next activity, right? So where they're going to be moving around. Now you have to move around for a quick refresher for everybody. Once you make a pass, you have to find a new square. You can't be in the same square as somebody else on your team. All right? Make sense? Questions? All right. What are some things that you have to do with your head as you're doing this? Look over your shoulders. What are you looking for? Yeah, who are you getting the ball from, Luca, every time? Kai. Who are you passing the ball to every time? So that's who you need to be looking for. You always got to be looking around, even if you don't have the ball, right? All right. Finley, start the ball with A. Ready? Play. Find a new space, new space, new space. Find a new one, Felix. Oh, Kai, I like how you repositioned yourself to find Luca. You checked your shoulders before that ball came. Ooh, look at all this movement now. Find a new spot, new spot, new spot. After every pass, new spot. What else could you do to let your teammates know where you are? Yes, Felix, I like that. What'd you do? Called his name? Yeah, you called his name. Good. Let each other know where you are. And freeze. Questions with that? So this is an activity that I've done, like I said, many times. And you can progressively make it harder and harder and harder for the kids. Say it again? Good number of kids to do that with. 5? 3. Yeah, I was hoping I was going to have one more kid, and I do it overlapping. Okay. So if you're doing this activity overlapping with like groups of 3, like you could easily do 9 kids in this space. Any kid on a different team could be in the same square. But now you have to also look to see other balls that are coming so that you're not getting hit by the ball, and you're constantly going to start looking around. Good question. Do I have any volunteers on who wants to be in the middle for adults? Sure, there's one. I need one more. All right. So guys in the middle here, can you take away these middle 3 9 cones? Leave the big cones on the outside. All right, so again, if I had the numbers, the next step was going to be a 6 against 3. And what I've done with this is, usually when I start this activity, we'll be playing on half of our field. And that's what I would have marked off in grids. And then when we move to this part, I remove the middle cones, and now we're on half the field. And I said, now we're going to play 6 on 3, and you're going to keep the ball away from the other group. And then you can keep rotating who's in the middle every 2 or 3 minutes. Yep. So your goal, players on the outside, your goal is to connect 3 passes in a row. You have to take no more than 2 touches. If you take more than 2 touches, then you just restart at 0. Okay? So how many passes in a row are you trying to do? 3. If you take 4 touches because you're under pressure, is that a bad thing? No. Just find your pass and restart. Make sense? All right, so defenders in the middle. I always play first passes free, so that doesn't count towards their 3. So they'll play 1 pass, and then that's your cue to start playing. Ready?
Do we go still from A, B, C, D?
Nope. Oh, good question, Kai. Kai asked if we go A, B, C, D, E. Nope. There's no order. Find your open pass. Ready? Play. That's 2. Oh, 3. 4. 5. Oh, unlucky. Good. So that's what we'd be doing. Then when I would talk to them about feedback, I might talk about a little bit more communication, a little bit more space. As they were playing, they got a little tighter and tighter and tighter, and it made it easier and easier and easier for the defenders to get them. Does that make sense? So another thing that I might talk about with them is playing wide and then having one person checking to the middle to then get their attention. Because if Finley comes running up in here and Luca has the ball, they'll probably swarm this player, but then that'll leave the other players wide open. Questions? No? All right. Make sense? Okay. Thank you. I'm going to switch over. We're going to go back over to the square over here, and I'm going to show you some defense. Some defense now. So this is going to be a defensive activity. I'm going to have Ben and Kai over here. Do you guys want to be offense or defense? Offense. All right, give them the ball. So one of you is going to be here. The other one is going to be off the field over here. Yeah, just away so you don't get hit. You guys are defense. Luca, grab another soccer ball. Who's going to be our first defender? Felix. Do you remember this activity from the past? All right. You're going to play the ball to Kai. Felix is going to play you the ball. As soon as he passes you the ball is live. Your goal is to dribble the ball through these 2 cones. So these guys that are waiting are going to get out of the way, kind of like Ben is. Felix, if you get the ball from Kai, you can dribble through those cones. All right? Can you kick the ball through the cones? No. What do you have to do? Dribble. If I hit the ball like this and I'm running after it, is that a dribble? No, that's a bad touch, right? It's not a good dribble. I want to keep the ball close to my body as I'm dribbling. It's got to be under control as you go through the cones. Ready? Play. Out. Next group. Go ahead, Luca. Look out, Finley. All right, next group. Keep playing, Kai, keep playing. Next group. Next group. Freeze. Finley, let me see that ball. Ben, I'm going to pass you the ball, okay? You ready? What do I need to do as a defender? Say that louder.
Close the space.
Close the space fast. Ben, pass me the ball back. Ready? Is this fast? No. What's Ben's head doing? Looking up. Why is that dangerous as an attacker for him to be able to look up? He can see the field. I don't want him to see the field, do I? Ready, Ben? Now what did his head do? His head went down. As a defender, you need to pressure quickly so that their head goes down. That way they can't see anything around them, right? Good. What's the difference with this? If I'm coming up to Ben and I'm like this, Where's Ben going to go? To the right or left? Or right through me, right? In soccer, defensively, you want to take away space, right? Restrict their space. So if I pass the ball over here, now which way is Ben going to go? He's going to go this way. I changed my run, so I showed him where I want him to go. Could he cut back on my leg? Yeah. Do I know that that's probably what he would do if he is like slowing down? Yeah, if he's going slow, I might know he's going to cut against me, and then that's fine. But you're making it more and more predictable. You want to make it as predictable as possible. So sending him to a spot where he has less space, now I can use the sideline as my second defender. All right, so this is one of those activities that I mentioned earlier that I've done for a long time with the kids. This is typically the sort of thing where that group would go for like 5 or 6 times each player on defense. Then they would switch. Then this group would go 5 or 6 times. Then we'd talk about it. Then they'd go back and do it again. And then we'd start giving a lot more direct feedback like, yep, turn this way, do this. But I'm going to be very specific with what I'm telling them because this might be a new skill for the kids. Not a lot of kids know much about defense. I do a ton of defensive coaching with all my levels. Felix and Ben's team at U11, I have barely taught them any offense because if you can pass the ball, you can score goals. But on defense, you got to be able to work as a team, communicate, and those are the things that you can control and be more successful at, and that'll set up the building blocks for later. Even at the high school level, and from conversations with other coaches at the college level, they also don't coach much on offense. It's typically, for the first 2/3 of the field, this is how I want you to play. And the final third, I don't care. Score goals. Do whatever you have to do. Figure it out. You might give them feedback on how to make runs and how to move defenders and influence them. But that's pretty much where it ends, and it's going to be a lot of creativity to score the goals. So defense is really where it's at. So I know that we're almost out of time. I was going to do one more. Just doing a 1-against-2 session real quick. This is an activity that you could actually build all the way up to 4v4 and then eventually 8v8 by taking the concepts here and just going bigger and bigger space. So, but it takes a lot of time to get there. So, hey, we're going to go 2 defenders now, 1 attacker. Okay, so who's going to be our second defender first? Second defender. We're going to go 2 defenders, 1 attacker. 1 attacker. Who's attacking first? Ben. Ready? Play. Freeze! Come back. Who's going to go take the ball away from Ben?
Me? Okay.
Did you know that he was going to do it?
No.
Oh. Can you communicate it?
Yeah.
What would be a way for you to say that you're going to go get the ball?
Me? Mine?
Mine. Sure. Me, mine. You can say, I got pressure. Ready? Play. Freeze! So again, this is direct instruction, right? I'm interrupting a lot to give a lot of feedback. So Ben, come back over here. Freeze, right there, where you were. So Finley set up directly behind Luca. You're the supporting defender. Okay, so Luca is pressuring, you are supporting. Where should you be standing?
On the side that I'm forcing to?
Maybe. Which side are you forcing him to? How can I tell? Oh, all right, so let's fix that. Ready? Let's force him to this side, because look, he's already closer over there, right? So we're going to force him to this side. Finley, where should you be now with Luca facing this way?
On this side.
Yes, on this side. So now he's reading Luca's body shape to see which way to go. You're going to turn just a little bit more like that, okay? So the pressuring defender is going to show on their shape of where they want their support defender to be. Luca, are you likely to win the ball? Probably not. And that's the case in soccer. The pressuring defender usually doesn't win the ball. Who usually wins it? The support defender, right? Because you're forcing him, he's going to take a big touch to evade you, that's when you take it, right? Make sense? So coaches, the second defender is usually 3 to 5 yards away at a 45-degree angle from their pressure defender. Okay? So that's why it's important that we have the body shape, because now I'm communicating non-verbally, this is where I want to take this player. And so those are things you would coach the second player to be looking for. All right, go back. Let's play it for real now. Ready, play. Good step. That's okay, ball's out. Next group. Luca, come back. Go with Felix. Kai, you're attacking. Ready, play. Call it, call it. Ooh, Felix, I heard you say here early, I got pressure, right? As you're going, make sure you're calling it. Okay, get used to calling it in the activity. Felix, jump in with Finley. Tighter, Felix, tighter! Oh! So, how did Ben split them? What happened? Yeah, so was the support defender where they should have been? Where they were supposed to be? No, you're a little behind, right? If you're a little behind, then that's what can happen. Or, Finley and Felix, come back here. Ben, come right here. Luca, pass the ball over here to Ben. Felix, when you came up to defend, you're like, oh, I got to catch up, I got to catch up. That's right as Ben made his cut, right, to get past Finley. And now look how flat you are. If a pair of defenders get split, it's because they were flat, okay? So then Ben cut this way and then was able to cut right through. If you're just back here a little bit and he cuts this way, then you would be able to step up and pressure. All right? Okay.